Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. They've got all of the audiobooks. Give them a look. You'll find something you like. Now, Johnny and I are going to go 5 rounds with some UFC talk and a couple other things. Strap in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. I'm Zach.
And I'm ready to rumble.
Johnny just took a bump of some acetaminophen or ibuprofen or whatever, and you're trying to fight off the sickies, dude.
Yeah, I actually legally changed my name to I am ready to rumble.
I am ready to rumble. That's your name.
Yeah, I figured we're going to get into it this episode. We have so many things. Joe finally responds.
He sure did.
UFC 229.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's it. But you have some things hidden up your sleeve to surprise me with, so who knows where we'll get into that one.
Who knows, dude?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I not eating a big, giant, delicious plate of chicken right now?
Ooh, Zach getting in trouble on the podcast. And now we found out that Zach's
starvation at 6 p.m. and you're like, she's coming home. Fuck it, I'll go ahead and record. Can't be why. Gotta deal with the hunger cranks, okay?
Oh wow! Are we keeping this? Or are we gonna
Yeah, we'll keep it. Yeah, it's fun.
So what we learned is a couple things. One, Zach is a real person. 2, he is a shitty husband today.
Well, the hunger cranks exist. That's what we've also learned.
The hunger cranks? Oh, being hangry?
Yeah, hangry. Yeah.
The hunger cranks.
It's a real thing.
I like that they're called hunger cranks. I like that, actually.
You like the hunger cranks better than hangry?
I think so. I do. I think so.
Because it's not necessarily angry. Yeah,
that's
there's
true.
Angry, and then there's being
grumpy,
and there's being
the grumble grumps,
being a grumper, yeah,
the tummy grumble grumps,
yeah,
grumble
and it's a real thing.
Grumps?
I've done it too.
Oh man, I get hangry all the time. Except I get actually angry, where Al will just know that I'll just have that look like I want to rip something apart. And she's like, "Did you eat yet?
Local
Do you need
man,
a snack?"
Local man pummels 14 people at the local mall at the Panda Express.
Oh yeah, ooh, Panda Express. You know what's real dangerous is going to the grocery store hangry. Because 1, you don't have the patience to deal with everyone else's bullshit in the grocery store. 2, at least I'll speak for myself, I buy fucking everything I see.
Dude, so me and my wife talk about this all the time. If you go to the store hungry, you're going to spend more money.
Oh, 100%.
You got to eat something before you go. Even if it's just a light thing, you're going to end up saving yourself some money.
Just enough to take the edge off.
Absolutely.
And then you don't come home with 4 pounds of M&Ms.
And we have a Costco membership.
Oh, I love Costco.
And you can just buy everything in 2 large quantities. It's almost like if you wanted to create a fictional world where everything was huge around you, you just go to Costco and they're gonna have it. Like if you want a 3-foot high tub of cheese balls,
you can get it.
They got it.
Mm-hmm.
experience.
There is no excuse to be hangry at Costco though, because you can always grab a 75-cent hot dog and 100%. Be happy as can be. Or
you can go around, and if you're like me, you just carry like a pair of sunglasses or something, and you just hit up all the little.
Ooh, I do that too.
You hit up all the little snack people.
Sometimes
all
I just
the elderly
say fuck it.
Senior citizens are just handing out granola and stuff.
Yeah.
You just walk by, and you grab one. You make your rounds. It's just you. And the next time around, you mess your hair up a little bit and you throw on some shades.
Yeah, man, you're more caring.
Bizarro Zach. And now I can just go around and get a second round, and I don't have to feel guilt about it.
I just keep taking them until they tell me to stop. I'll just sit there and snack. Yeah, well, fuck yeah.
Stand there and take one.
It doesn't. There's no signs that say one per customer. if you got some delicious sausage cooking up, I'm gonna eat as much as I physically can until you're like, yo, man,
you're boxing
being
everybody
a fat
out.
Fuck right now.
You're just boxing everybody out.
That's right. Big man in line, baby. Come at me, bro.
You're just pointing them to the aisle.
I give them that look.
These are delicious. Just go buy them.
I give them the hangry look.
How does that... Okay, if you had to describe the hangry look... Okay, so let me describe the face Johnny's making right now. Eyes wide, okay? Sort of
eyebrows
a scowl.
Pointed.
So, yep, eyebrows pointed, a scowl.
Teeth clenched.
Teeth clenched. And he's also... Oh, Johnny, why are you strangling that bunny rabbit, dude?
That's right. I give him the look. You don't want to fuck with this. Big man's hungry. He needs to eat.
Yeah, man. You're right. There is no law at the snack counters.
Just those stupid social norms.
Plus, the people who are sitting there working are like 200 years old.
And they give a fuck. You just talk to them a little bit, and they're like, God, this guy's eating all this food. That's okay. He's at least talking to me, making my day go a little better. Yeah. You know, that's a huge improvement from all the little kids running around just screaming and grabbing shit and making a mess. I'm a gentleman. I say hello, ask them how their day's going, stuff my face, put my garbage away, you know?
Yeah. You know what's also really dangerous? I don't know if you have any grocery stores like this, but we have a local grocery store where sometimes they'll have like a person giving out little samples of liquor.
No, we have not. We don't get that. That's an American thing.
So they get you in, and they always set it up sort of close to the entrance. So they're like, "Hey, here, get a little sample," and then the hope is that you take your sample, whatever, you buy a bottle, but then you also meander over to the chip aisle,
I should specify that we have that, but only in liquor stores. We don't sell booze in grocery stores here.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, you guys have access to booze in many different ways than we do. But yeah. So if you go to a liquor store, you can get those samples, and then, I mean, that's a good time just to pre-drink there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't really taste that. What flavors am I looking for? And then they'll be like, oh, there's, in this wine, there's a hint of dark chocolate and rosebud. Like, oh, I didn't quite get that the first time. Can I have another sample? Suck that one back. I'm like,
all I'm tasting is grapes. I don't get it.
Yeah. I think, am I doing it too fast? Do I need to roll this on my tongue? Can I have another one? Just keep going until, again, they're like,
until
okay,
your
bud.
Teeth are all purple.
Or you just barter and say, yo, I'm going to buy a bottle of this. How many free drinks can I get?
At least you're honest at that point.
That's right. Honesty is the best policy. That's what I always say.
It's true. There's no good segue into the topic. Man, UFC happened this week.
UFC 229. I don't even know where to begin. Jared and I talked about doing a podcast, and we just got real busy. Yeah. We had a long weekend this past weekend, so we actually had yesterday off too. Okay. So I came home thinking I had 2 days to record a bit with Jared, and then realized that we're recording today, and kind of screwed myself over. But I'm sure that we can always do a follow-up, because depending on how things play out, could get crazy. And I know you probably want to jump right into the McGregor-Khabib stuff, but I do want to talk a little bit about the overall card, because it was a really good and entertaining card. I won't go through all the fights, but I will say fight of the night definitely goes to Tony Ferguson and Anthony Pettis. Fighting in at 155. This was a return of Tony Ferguson. He got stripped of the interim belt when he blew his MCL. He tripped on stage, tore his MCL. Didn't tear the MCL, just removed it from the bone, the connecting point. They say that's a 9-month to 1 year recovery.
Oof.
He came back and fought in 4 months.
Oh my God.
On his own physical therapy plan. Like, he had some doctor's consultation, but he's studying, he's getting his PhD in health science or something. So he's well aware of the body and created his own PT plan along with some specialists and came back to fight within 4 months. Now, this is a hungry dude. This guy, definitely a top contender at 155. Was supposed to fight Khabib and then blew his knee out. And then Al Aquenta stepped in on short notice and took Khabib to 5 rounds. So everyone was talking about what is going on with who is this Al Aquenta guy. I mean, he's a top 5 fighter, but and then what's going on with Khabib that he couldn't take this guy out in 5 rounds, and this guy had 5 days notice to fight. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. But anyways, Tony Ferguson. So 2 comeback stories. 1, Tony Ferguson coming back from devastating knee injury. 2, Anthony Pettis, who is a former UFC lightweight champion. Had a bit of a downward turn, took some time off and has come back and has won his last 2 fights, I believe. He did lose this one against Tony Ferguson, but I will say he looks like he was back in his old form. He's well known for having one of the best mixed martial arts knockouts, which was a wall run off the cage to front roundhouse. That. Yeah, that's this guy. So huge, crazy leap to stardom. I think he kind of had the same issues with got too big for his head and then changed up his game too much. Different coaches changed his game plan up too much, and I think he lost the old Anthony Pettis. So he's come back, and you could tell that he's refound himself in his fighting style. He's a great striker. The fight was a brawl. I will say Tony Ferguson had the upper hand most of the time. But Anthony Pettis did hurt him, which was pretty exciting. Couldn't quite put him away. The fight ended with Anthony Pettis throwing in the towel in between the 2nd and 3rd round, I think, or the 3rd and 4th round, because he broke his hand. Oh, shit. So he almost KO'd Tony Ferguson, tried to finish the fight, couldn't quite do it. And then talking to his coach said, I broke my hand, I can't fight. And his coach is like, if you're not going to be able to put that hand up, you're not going to throw it, I'm not putting you out there. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think that's the right decision. It sucks. You could tell Pettis wanted to keep fighting and he had fight in him, but he was making the smart move. And I think the show that he put on definitely got fight of the night. He's going to get a bonus, and I think it shows Dana White that he's back. There's a really cool moment where he's on top of Tony Ferguson and he takes a moment to look at the camera and he's bloody as shit. And he just sticks his tongue out and arches his back like a werewolf or something. And you could tell that he is just into it. He didn't care that he was losing. He was there to brawl and he wasn't afraid. But Tony Ferguson is just so dominant, incredibly fit, superior fighter. But he was too much. And I mean, he broke the guy's hand with his face. So there's that. Right. So it'll be interesting to see.
Pretty hard head to do that kind of damage.
Yeah, that's just the risk of punching a head basically. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now with Conor and Khabib and now Tony Ferguson. Having a vicious comeback and showing that he's really going to be a challenge. He's going to want Khabib. McGregor didn't have a great showing, but we'll get to that. I will say the best moment of the night, best moment for me, was Derek Lewis versus Alexander Volkov. So Derek Lewis, I don't know if you saw the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan.
I was going to talk about that.
Gone viral. So apparently he gained 500,000 Instagram followers after that post-fight interview.
I bet.
Incredible.
I saw a GIF earlier. It was Derek Lewis, and he's standing there. It's his UFC picture, so he's shirtless, whatever. And then on his crotch, there's just flames coming off of it, but it's a GIF. So for you guys that didn't catch it, one of the things that he said at his post-fight interview, which is, I didn't see highlights. I know he ended it in a pretty good fashion, but
yeah. Well, let's see why you could see he was so ramped up. So he was getting his ass beat.
Yeah.
For 3 rounds. I think that fight was a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
4-round fight, whatever. Just getting picked apart. And he was pretty shy, and he's expressed he had challenges with back issues, and he did fight Francis Ngannou, and that was like a no-fight fight. So there was some pretty big skepticism. It counted as a win for him, but it wasn't a good showing. He looked tired. He's a big man. He's not a technical fighter. He's got heavy hands and a shitload of heart. And he was getting picked apart by a far superior striker. Waited and waited and waited. You know, some of the people I was watching the fight with, like, what is he doing? What is he doing? Why isn't he fighting? I was like, he's waiting for that shot. He's waiting for the shot. He knows he has to knock this guy out to win. He knows. So he's saving energy, waiting for that slip up. That slip up happens with 20 seconds left in the match. And he knocks him out and goes to ground and pound, and the ref stops the fight and he wins. But he is gassed. First thing he does after he wins, which I didn't really catch at first, was he takes his shorts off. So he's standing in the middle of the ring in his compression shorts, in his like boxers basically. And Joe Rogan walks up and kind of gives him a weird look and sees his shorts draped over his shoulder. He's like, Derek, like, you took your pants off. Why'd you take your pants off? And in a, you know, gasping for breath, he's like, man, my balls was hot.
Circles back around to the flaming genitals gif that I saw earlier.
My balls was hot.
My balls was hot.
Best post-fight interview ever. Joe Rogan loses it. He's like, I get that. And then, you know, they talk about what's next, because he was a number 2 fighter for heavyweight, and the title shot comes up against Daniel Cormier, and he's like, what? I need to sit my fat ass down. I'm exhausted. I ain't talking about no title shot, and you get my cardio up. Joe Rogan, just this down-to-earth, honest guy. He's like, man, I ain't that technical of a fighter, but I'm learning. But I got a lot of heart, man. I got a lot of heart. It's like, fucking rights, dude. Like, you just took a beating and waited for your opportunity and laid this fucker out.
Boy.
And then you get offered a title shot. Most people, number 2, you win that fight. You immediately say, well, you know what? I beat Francis Ngannou, who was supposed to be the heavyweight phenom. That fight was garbage, but whatever. Beat this guy. Come from behind. Most people are calling out that title shot, right? Because the heavyweight division, you don't really know what's going on.
Right.
And he's like, I ain't ready for that shit. I need to get my cardio up. And then
and I mean, well, and that's pretty. It's a pretty truthful and honest moment, you know. Like
100%.
And to be so self-aware of his performance that even after he won the fight, where most people would be ready to celebrate and sort of amp themselves
get away
up.
with everything, he's like, nah, man, I need to come back and reevaluate.
I mean, that's the big thing, is you gotta get your cardio up. You gotta work on your cardio so you can go all, you know, you can go full speed all 3 rounds or 5 rounds, whatever it ends up being. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got in the future. He's got some heavy hands though, man. That guy was a monster knockout, dude.
That guy can drop some bombs. And then to top it off, at the end, he asked Joe Rogan if he can come on the podcast next week and smoke some weed in front of everyone, like in front of Dana White. Man, I want to get on your podcast and smoke some weed.
The Nevada Sports Commission, all this, just like everybody's like, hey man, let me come smoke some weed with you.
The Nevada governor's in attendance, who oversees the commission. Oh my god, incredible. So, staying on this topic, crazy announcement today.
I have not heard.
Derek Lewis confirmed to fight Daniel Cormier, UFC 230, November 4th for the belt.
What?
November 4th.
Less than a month?
Less than a month, he's taking another fight. So clearly his cardio, he's just like, yeah, fuck it. I got a title shot. I'm getting old. I'm running out of time. Here's my chance. DC's
mark
old.
It down. Yeah, mark it down. Sunday, November 4th, guys. Oh my God, that's surprising. Less than a month.
I get back from Mexico that day, and I am going to try and watch that fight no matter what. That's a really good card one too. I'll be honest. So they needed someone to take the they needed a co-main event for Madison Square Garden. They want to sell it out. And as I said, the heavyweight division has been in a bit of limbo since Daniel Cormier beat Stipe. And I'm still bitter about that, but he won it fair and square, I guess.
Yeah.
And Stipe said he wants a rematch, and Cormier has said that he's kind of only looking for 1, maybe 2 fights left before he wants to retire. And there are a bunch of rumors that he was going to fight Brock Lesnar for a big money fight, because Brock sells pay-per-views. Whether or not you say he's a good fighter or not, that's debatable, but he can sell pay-per-views. He just can't stay clean, and I know he's been under strict supervision of USADA, and I think he's been doing okay, but I'm assuming there's something wrong there. He failed one test, and they needed to give something to DC, and I imagine DC is going to rip through Derek Lewis. He's beaten him in the past. I'm pretty sure he's beaten him in the past. Regardless, Derek Lewis does not have the cardio to deal with the pressure of a wrestler that is Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
But he has shown that he can come from behind and he can knock a guy out. And that's the thing about that heavyweight division. It only takes one punch. All those guys can knock each other out with one clean shot.
Yeah, and he looked like he came out of the fight. I mean, he was getting picked apart, as you said, but he didn't look really worse for wear after.
He did not have a whole lot of damage. Yeah, he's a resilient, tough guy. I think he's crazy to take another fight within less than a month.
That's so nuts. I would not have expected that. I would have said maybe like, I don't know, 232, something like that. Like, give yourself a little bit of time to get in the gym. And
yeah, you'd like to see 3 months in between, but he didn't take a lot of damage. He's in decent shape. Yeah, I think his training camp will be somewhat light, because he's in more or less fighting form.
Yeah,
and by
training camp, it's not even much of a training camp, obviously. I mean,
well, he needs to hit a treadmill.
100%.
If I was his coach, I mean, obviously you need to work on wrestling defense, so takedown defense, heavy takedown defense, and get his cardio up, and teaching him like he needs to work on getting back up once he gets taken down. And I think he can let his hands fly when he gets his moments, and he'll figure out the timing, and it might take him a few rounds. But he just needs to not get gassed. But my prediction, DC, heavy favorite. I think DC takes him in round 2.
See, I'm sort of thinking you go the opposite route. I think with such a short turnaround, like if you had a longer camp, you could focus on like, wrestling defense and whatnot. I think with such a short turnaround, you just say, hey, get your cardio up and then focus on your strengths, just focus on the strengths, get that striking, get, I mean, cardio and striking. I mean, that's pretty much it. Obviously, you got to be a little more rounded than that, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? So you almost don't want to overcomplicate with such short amount of time.
Yeah, and he's practicing. He has a base knowledge of takedown defense and the ground game, but it's not his thing. He's a brawler. And he's always going to be a brawler, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't suspect he'll change his style that much. Cardio is going to be an issue with DC. Cardio is an issue with everyone against DC. I would say the most fit man at heavyweight would be Stipe, and you could see that he was getting tired from all the pressure that DC puts. That's his style. So it'll be. I'm excited. I mean, win or lose, Derek Lewis is an awesome guy. Great Instagram. He's hilarious. He's humble in victory and defeat. He takes criticism really, really well. And I think this is kind of, coming close to his swan song, and he might have a chance here. And, he does it great. And if he doesn't, I don't know. Like, if DC wins, I don't know what he's going to do after. Like, hold out.
Yeah, he. All I know is he better hold off on that weed smoking venture with Joe Rogan. He might want to hold off. Well, it is legal in Nevada,
so who knows?
Rest up. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but
I don't know. It'll be funny. So the real fight, Khabib versus Conor.
Yeah, so you seemed last week, I was re-listening to the episode today. It seemed like you were sort of coming around to, to thinking maybe Connor could take this thing.
Yeah,
It sort of seems like that's where your head was last week, and honestly, you had no reason not to think he couldn't. I mean, he's a talented guy, but we saw it unfold a different way.
I definitely put, last week put more stock into Connor than I probably should have, though my prediction remained the same. I wanted Connor to win, but I didn't think he would. I think he had a chance, and he definitely was playing into that game. He was, keeping his right hand out for like as a measuring stick and a bit of a distraction, and he kept that left hand cocked and low and ready, just waiting. So the big surprises for me out of this was not how good Khabib was on the ground. That's his thing. There's no one better on the ground, honestly.
I mean, when you wrestle bears.
Yeah, literally. But what I liked to see out of Khabib was they had a moment where he stood up and said, I know I can dominate you on the ground. I'm going to send you a message standing up. And they traded, and I would honestly say I think Khabib did more damage standing up as well. Connor, he handled the pressure really well in the second round. He looked relaxed on the ground. He was well practiced, took his time, didn't, waste too much energy trying to scramble, got up, a couple times, but Khabib just had that nasty lower body control over those legs and tight pressure and getting Connor to the cage so he couldn't, less opportunity to scramble. And it was what happened, what happened was what we said was going to happen. He'd get down and he'll ground and pound and wear you out, and Connor didn't have an answer to that.
No, and I'll say Connor, at least just from what I saw in the highlights, he looked like I'm sure he probably, I don't know if this was because he had to cut weight or anything like that, but he looked a lot thinner and
he did
and less bulky than usual. So I don't know if that played into any of it at all, but he was definitely, his muscle mass was much lower than what I'm used to seeing him with. All right, guys, let's take a second to talk about our sponsor, Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. Guys, the book that I'm going to recommend for this month is Dad is Fat by Jim Gaffigan. I can relate to the title of this book on a spiritual level because I love ice cream. So, and I'm a dad. So there you go. Basically, this book just talks about living with 5 children. He and his wife just surviving with 5 children. And that's basically all you're doing when you have 5 kids is you're surviving. And God bless his wife, because when he's touring, it's got to be hell on earth. So, just give it a listen, guys. It's Jim Gaffigan. Everybody knows Jim Gaffigan. He's got his own comedic take that he's going to put on this. Just trust me, you're going to love it. So pick that one up. If you don't want to listen to Jim Gaffigan, they got 180,000 other audiobooks that you can choose from. So you're going to find something that you like. Head over, give them a look. Give them just a full look over. You got 30 days. You get to keep your audiobook after the 30 days are up. And yeah, it's an open and closed case, guys. So head over, give it a listen, and that's it. We're going to get back to the podcast. audibletrial.com/jumbled. Again, that's audibletrial.com/jumbled. Hey, Johnny, you got something else to say?
That's what a lot of the analysis coming out is, that Connor did not look himself at his normal 155 weight. He did look thinner. He looked a little pale. And I'm not making excuses. I honestly, I know Connor wants a rematch, and he said immediately he wants a rematch. And I don't see what Connor can do differently to change the outcome of that fight. Connor's great on the ground and from a jiu-jitsu background, but he got controlled, and that's the big purpose of jiu-jitsu, is about controlling your opponent, and wrestling is all about controlling your opponent.
100%.
And Khabib is just a master at that. As good as Connor is, we knew Khabib was going to be better. I had hoped that Conor had enough to at least help him out a bit more, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to change in 3 or 6 months or even a year. That's
Yeah, I think he approached whatever he did in his camp. And I'm not sure what all that involved, but he just looked too thin. He looked like he didn't look like he was healthy. Like
I don't think the cut went well. There's rumors that he was sick or had the flu or whatever. I mean, rumors. One thing I will say about Conor, as big mouthed as he is and antagonistic leading up to the fight, he is always humble in victory and defeat.
That's true.
And that's one thing that I will always respect. And I think partially why I like him so much, because I can see past the boisterous mentality of the pre-show build-up and, being that persona, because that's who he is. But in the cage, after the fight, win or lose, he's a humble guy. And, he openly admitted Khabib had his number. He did not have an answer. He wants to go at it again. And he was saying that stuff after the shit show that followed that fight, which we'll get to in a minute here.
Yeah.
But you look at all the bad blood between him and Nate Diaz, and after those fights, very sportsmanlike, knocks out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds in the title fight. Said nothing but good things about Jose Aldo after that fight. Right. So he's got a big mouth, and did he deserve an ass whooping? 100%.
Oh, sure.
I love Conor, and I know a lot of people, there's, get mad at all of the dick riding Conor fans, and maybe I am a dick rider. I like who he is as a fighter. I like his style. I like the energy that he brings to sport. I like what he's done for the sport. I don't necessarily like how he approaches it. Some of the shit that he said to Khabib.
The outside the ring shenanigans.
Yeah, and I don't like, how he acted, post Mayweather fight with the Dolly incident, or when he jumped into the ring in another fight. Like he's a shit disturber, and I think he got too out of hand. The issue is that hype sells more tickets, and I think that's where the UFC is getting into some trouble, is that they've rewarded this bad behavior. So now all these other fighters are saying, this is who I need to be to get my shot, to get my title, to sell more pay-per-views, to make more money, to get my bonuses. Because that's what they've done for Conor, is they've rewarded or turned a blind eye towards those shenanigans. And I think he should have been punished maybe a little bit harder for the Dolly incident, because he interrupted a card, hurt fighters. Yeah. Fights had to get rescheduled. Like, I don't think he needed criminal charges. I'm okay with that not happening, but I think there should have been a firmer stance from the UFC. Yeah. But he sells, and they're a business, and they're out to make money, and they've not shied away from that fact.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole drama aspect, right? I mean, I'm not making a direct comparison, but it's sort of like how professional wrestling sells a lot of tickets.
It's so becoming professional wrestling. And then there's conversations around that too, of if that drama sells, and they need to spark some energy. A lot of the weight divisions are starting to dry up with big personalities or big fights or fun fights, exciting fights. Yeah. And Conor is the kind of guy that can make that happen. And you saw a bit of that with Brock Lesnar shoveling Daniel Cormier, and now DC's fighting Derek Lewis. So I think they're trying to let it happen somewhat organically. I don't think the UFC is staging that at this point, but I think they're hoping and kind of giving opportunities for that shit show to happen. I do think what happened Saturday night got out of hand. So, and completely out of character for Khabib. For those of you who didn't know, although this may be mini spoiler alert, but not really. So Khabib won, and one of McGregor's coaches, Derek Dennis, was doing some serious trash talking. And Dennis is a former professional fighter. I'm pretty sure he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Guy can handle himself. He's Connor's jiu-jitsu coach. And he's saying something, I didn't really quite get what the words were, to Khabib. And Khabib loses his mind, climbs over the fence, jumps into the crowd, and starts fighting with Dennis. Dennis? Whatever. So that happens. In the meantime, Khabib's crew jumps into the cage and starts attacking Connor. So here's where some more video analysis needs to be done. I've tried to watch a few to kind of get a sense, but it's shaky, cell phone camera, you can't really tell. So my understanding was a guy approaches Connor, pushes Connor throws a punch. Connor probably partially in the wrong on that one. Another guy cheap shots Connor from the side. Connor deals with him, and then another guy jumps over the fence. He's in a red shirt. We'll call him the D-bag in red. This guy I have the least amount of respect for. He jumps in from behind Connor and then punches him from behind.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
that was
all
the
of
only
that,
one I think I saw.
All of that, should not have happened. In the video that I saw, Connor was standing, with some of his team, accepted defeat, hands on his hips, waiting for the official announcement, and the shit show happens, and he's just kind of, shocked in the moment, shocked in the loss or whatever. And then these guys start beating on him, and then he loses his mind and tries to fight back. And then, there's basically a crazy brawl inside between team members and refs and Nevada State Commission trying to pull people out, and then everything that's going on inside inside the seating with Khabib. Complete shit show. I know that they arrested 3 people. I'm assuming it was the 3 guys that attacked Connor inside the cage. Last I heard, Connor decided not to press charges. There's obviously some visa issues with Khabib. Khabib's in some serious trouble now with his visa issue, let alone what the Nevada Gaming Commission decides to do. Those 3 guys, obviously, I'm assuming, are not American. Khabib typically trains with his countrymen, which is obviously working for him. They're a hardy group. So there could be some challenge with them. I know a couple of them are pro fighters who might never fight in the UFC again. So there's a lot of big shots that could have been blown. Yeah. As of Saturday night, the last I heard was the UFC is withholding Khabib's purse until further notice.
I heard they were holding Connor's as well.
They gave Connor his. They reviewed the footage, and Connor got paid that night. Dana White said so anyways. I haven't heard anything about Khabib's purse or his share of the pay-per-view selling. Dana White obviously was trying to deal with a lot of crazy shit. Right. I wasn't sure what was going on and what was happening, but basically said the UFC is going to officially wait for the Nevada Gaming Commission to make a decision, and depending on what that suspension or what their decision could be, they may or may not strip Khabib.
And that'd be a shame too, because I mean he deserved the win. He got 100%. The win. But
and I think part of it is, Connor and his team took a really hard approach on Khabib for his religion, his family, where he's from, like cross some lines. So I understand Khabib wanting to beat the piss out of all those guys. I truly do. And honestly, if I was him, I probably would have done the same thing, because I'm not a bigger man than that. You can say whatever you want to me, but you start dragging in people, my family, and that's another story. It's sad because Khabib had talked about retiring if he won this fight. And I think it would have been an amazing feather in his cap to have dominated until now arguably one of the best pound for pound fighters, one of the most decorated professional fighters in mixed martial arts history. 2 weight class champion. Like, Connor's resume goes on and on and on, and then he got absolutely handled. Yeah. Just handled. And Khabib could have gone out on a high note there and said, I've done it all. I'm 28-0. I beat the Golden Boy handedly. Didn't even get hurt. And what happened, and now I feel like we're going to be in a situation like the Dolly situation for Conor, where he's going to have to do a deal to make up some money. And Conor signed a 6-fight deal with the UFC, and there's a lot of speculation that he did that so he can get out of suspension and have some leniency, and he'll make some money. And now Khabib might get roped into that too. I think what I would like to see is Khabib and Tony Ferguson. I think Tony Ferguson needs that redemption opportunity. He's ready. He's clearly ready. He's an exciting fighter. I don't think he'll beat Khabib. But I think he has great potential to. And then that gives Conor time to regroup, recover, train a bit more, get his situation sorted out, whether it's a health concern or training or diet or whatever was going on with him. Focus on his plan, and then we might see Khabib Conor 2 in a year.
Yeah, you think he's going to stick around for a little bit longer than Khabib?
Oh, well, I think he's going to get strong-armed into doing it, because now any fight that he's on, there's going to be some drama around it, and people are going to want to watch. For being 28-0, Khabib was kind of flying under the radar. Because he wasn't really a big mainstream fighter, and yeah, he didn't have the hardest or the toughest route to 28-0. Like, he did get some pretty good easy fights, but he was strategic. And I can't fault the guy for that. He still fought, he still won. The UFC put that fight on, so they clearly thought there was some challenge there. But I imagine now they're gonna want to play off for the pay-per-view selling, and they're gonna ride this out and then give Khabib Conor 2, and if Conor wins, guaranteed there'll be a third. If Conor loses, I think it's done, and Khabib will, after that, Khabib wins, keeps his head cool, and can walk away saying, okay, now I'm 30-0. I beat Tony Ferguson, beat Conor, cleaned up the division. There's nothing here for me. None of you guys can say that I had an easy route.
Yeah. He's just got to approach it with the whole walk softly and carry a big dick stick. Big dick stick.
Dick stick. I see what's on your mind here.
No, he's seriously though. You just got to change your mentality, like, humble, and sort of like you said about Conor. You got to be humble in your
and that's typically who Khabib is, though. That's the thing. It was so out of character for him to lose his cool, and what it showed was clearly Conor was getting under his skin, and whatever Dennis said was enough to the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't think Khabib will make that mistake again. I highly doubt it. I know he was super regretful of it. He was embarrassed. He got stuck in the moment, or caught up in the moment. He made a bad choice. He made a really, really bad choice. I don't think his choice was as bad as Conor's was with the dolly, honestly. People, it's not like Khabib was fighting, Joe Blow fans in the stands. He was fighting a professional fighter who can handle his own. They went into that engagement. I did hear a joke that Dennis landed more punches on Khabib than Conor did, which take that as you will. Yeah. But I imagine he's gonna sign another fight contract, probably a 2-fight contract, where he'll fight Tony Ferguson. They're gonna give him a shot, and then they're gonna do the rematch of Khabib and Conor, and see how that lands. But I had higher hopes for McGregor's striking ability to outplay or be a bigger threat, and Khabib clearly practiced his stand-up because he was not scared standing up, and he used it perfectly, where he had to strike with Conor. Otherwise he had to strike to set up the takedowns, and if he didn't strike and he just kept going for the takedowns, that's where he knew he was going to get caught. He had to show Conor that he was willing to stand and bang, to keep Conor's timing off, to keep him on his toes, to keep him thinking double threat, and then setting up the takedown. And that's what he did. He did it beautifully. He had a perfect plan. He did the same thing every time. He was consistent. He had a game plan. He knew what it was. He believed in it. He trusted it. He committed to it. And he executed it. And I don't know where Conor can go from there, aside from catching a shot. But he landed a couple decent ones, but at the end of the day, Khabib didn't seem hurt.
Well, obviously, whatever Conor did in training was was not what he needed to do. So I'd like to see. I'd like to see him bulk.
But
well, I mean, yeah, it could have just been circumstance or whatever. I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit more, maybe, or just get back to the Conor that we're used to seeing. And
I think he could be a better 155. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, Khabib's style is all around neutralizing Conor's style, and that's why wrestlers or good wrestling backgrounds have such high success rates in mixed martial arts. It's the best sport or combat sport that you can have a background in to go into mixed martial arts, because it's a lot easier to teach people the basics of punching than it is the basics of wrestling, and the control aspect and the level change and the creativity of it, and
you can really wear somebody down on the ground as well. Yep.
And Conor doesn't have great cardio. I think he showed the best, at least I don't know if he had the best cardio going into that fight, but I think he showed that he had the best mindset on how to conserve what energy he did have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to follow it closely. I want to hear about what ends up happening when the Gaming Commission announces. As I mentioned, the governor of Nevada was in there and got rushed out. He was panicked and terrified. It's not a good image for the sport.
No.
That's still, as established as they are, still trying to gain credibility within the combat sports world, and it's still seen as dirty cage fighters, street fighters, no rules, and then this happens. It does not look good, but what they say,
help the cause.
No publicity is bad publicity, or all publicity is good publicity, whatever it is.
Same thing. Yeah.
They're trending. It's crazy. It's a good story. They can bank on making it another great pay-per-view, and it just comes down to what the Gaming Commission wants to do, and it might be a 6-month suspension, and then he has to fight Tony Ferguson, and then he fights Conor. We'll see.
Yeah, it's weird how the entire crowd turned against Khabib. Like, they were all, like, everybody was, there were so many boos after he jumped into the crowd, and
that's boos for a lot of
really
reasons.
Sad.
But
well, yeah, but I mean, it's sad because he deserved to have
that fight though resonated. So they had something like 3 times as much security than they normally book. There were fist fights happening between fans prior to the fight. And there were serious fistfights happening between fans after the fight. Saw some crazy videos of, Irish pride, Russian pride, and they're just beaking each other, fighting each other, knocking each other out. Some crazy fights inside that arena, next to the concession stand. So some huge fallout. Obviously, that's not what you want. It's not a safe environment. You don't want to see that happening, and that's I guess the downside to the high country pride, and they played off on that, Russia versus Ireland and all of that, and those people are both super proud, tough groups of people, and bunch of testosterone and high emotion, and it's unfortunate, but
I mean, that'd be sort of like if you went to an NFL game and then after the game ended, some random dude tackled you out by the concession stand. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like it doesn't look good, but I think it all just sort of started obviously with Khabib jumping out, and I mean, you said it was going before, but I doubt it would have escalated so quickly if it hadn't gotten to the point that it got to. But
I agree. It was definitely a shit show. It was entertaining. I loved the whole fight. The fight was good. All the fights were good, honestly. Obviously, the aftermath is kind of a shit show and will probably continue to be so. But it's going to make for some good TV. And now we have, the Black Beast taking on Daniel Cormier for a title shot. And I'm gonna be cheering for Derek Lewis. I know he's gonna lose, but I want that underdog story.
Or something like that.
Underdog story. Let's go.
Let's go, dude. I'm pumped for it too. You know what? I hope he takes it, or at least shows up and gives him a run for his money. You know, because that's what you want to see out of any fight. But especially you got to just pull for the guy, just because he seems like such a good dude, you know.
Yeah, just a good, down to earth, tough brawler, and I respect that. I mean, I'm personally not a super technical fighter. I have a lot of parallels to Derek Lewis in my fighting style, and and that's probably why I like him so much. But it's gonna be he's got a puncher's chance. That's the thing, and he's a puncher, and it can happen. Yeah. DC's been knocked out before. He can get knocked out again.
Yeah, we're gonna see pretty soon, man. I mean, God, it's still hard to believe that he's taken a fight less than a month after. Yeah, that's so nuts.
Money, baby, money.
Yeah, you gotta follow the money, and he's probably trying to jump on it while it's hot. His name's out there, and he's viral. And...
Man, I would fight Daniel Cormier tomorrow for half the purse that Derek Lewis is probably going to get. And I probably wouldn't last 10 seconds, but I would be willing to take a 30-minute ass whooping for a few $100,000.
100%. 100%, dude. Absolutely. So I don't think we have time for multiple things. Plus, I don't think the one thing I wanted to talk about is gonna sort of flow with where we've been with this podcast, this episode.
Yeah, this definitely turned into fighting with Jumbled a lot longer than I thought it would. So I apologize for steamrolling through.
You know what? This podcast is what it is, and it's sometimes gonna be one thing. It's sometimes gonna be another thing. You know, if you're looking for more of a comedy centric podcast, then hey, come back next week. Maybe it'll happen next week. You know, maybe it'll.
Well, we got a few minutes. What do you got? Let's throw one of your favorite things out. Let's noodle around here.
Well, this is gonna be more comedic, obviously, because I'm talking, and that's all that I do. So I was talking with my wife earlier, who you guys heard earlier, and we were talking about things that happen to men that, you know, that females would never get to experience, things that happen to females and men never get to experience. And it got me thinking, I haven't seen this in a while. Johnny, have you ever been to any kind of like public, like I don't know, like a football game or baseball game or something like that, and you walk into the bathroom and there's a big trough with ice in it, and then all the guys are peeing on the ice?
Yeah. I hate those, by the way.
So I said this to my wife, and she was silent for about 15 seconds. And I think she was trying to figure out if I was being serious or not.
You pee in a trough full of ice? Yeah, that's where the beer comes from.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing when you think about it. You just a bunch of dudes gathered around, but it's sort of fun because who can melt the most ice, you know?
Yeah. So fun Johnny fact: I am a little bit pee shy. And
really, with that hog.
So here's where it stems from, and not to toot my own horn. I say I'm average. People say I'm bigger than average. I have a friend named James who has come up with several nicknames for me, all genitalia based.
Let's hear him.
Well, mostly Banana. He just calls me Mr. Banana. So my Calgary group of friends here really refer to me as Mr. Banana.
All right. Hey, listeners, real quick, before Johnny continues on, I want some fan art, okay? I want you to draw Johnny as Mr. Banana, okay? I will change all of our social media avatars, at least for a day, to Mr. Banana, okay? I will give you a shout out and everything. I just want some fan art. Let's make it happen. Continue, Johnny.
So I've known James for 10 years now, maybe a little more. And he constantly makes fun of my genitalia. If you can see it through my pants, or if we're working out or whatever, to the point where I'm so self-conscious about it that I get pee shy. And maybe this will help with my pee shyness.
Yeah.
By publicly expressing or sharing my fear. But yeah, I get pee shy.
Yeah.
And
it's
sporting
sort of
events is where it really peaks at sporting events.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my challenge to you, Johnny, okay? You know how there's an unspoken rule in between guys. If there's a stall, if you can fit a stall in between you and the next guy, you're supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Here's my challenge to you. Screw that rule. Go next to a person, even if there's just one dude all the way on the end and all like 8 urinals. You have to go right next to him and make some kind of little comment or joke.
Have you ever been checkmated in the urinal line?
Checkmated. Explain.
So speaking like your rule, so if you're the first guy in, you either go to the first urinal or the furthest urinal. You're always on the end, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then the next guy comes in will either go to the far end or at least skip one. There should always be that buffer.
Right.
What I like to do is do the math really quick and get that spot so that the next person in, no matter what, has to be awkwardly close to someone. It's called being checkmated.
I love it, dude.
It's a big dick move because you can look, be like, yo, dude, you definitely could have gone over one more and then we could have all had one space in between us, but you chose to put me in this awkward position.
Yeah.
Maybe that's karma coming back and why now I'm pee shy.
So you're saying, like, instead of doing one space, you do like 2 spaces and then you force a couple dudes to have to go pee next to each other?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that's hilarious. I've never done that before, but that's a big... Yeah. That's a big mental game, dude.
That's how you fuck with someone.
I'm definitely going to do that the next time I'm anywhere, dude.
Yeah, there you go. Think of me.
Hilarious. Shaking it up enough. Well, with that, guys, Johnny, do you have anything else you want to share for this week?
No, I talked a lot. I apologize. Hopefully my audio is good.
We're going to find out that it hasn't been recording this entire time and I'm just talking. You know what's funny? I would still release it.
Commitment.
Nobody would understand what's happening.
Do they on a normal day?
No, this podcast doesn't make any sense. You know that, Johnny. Guys, if you want to follow us on social media, just search for Jumbled Podcast. If you want to listen to us elsewhere from wherever you're listening, we're on all the major podcast platforms. Just look for Jumbled Podcast or just Jumbled. Leave us a rating and review on iTunes. It would help out so much more than you guys know. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get that free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. Johnny, we're going to have to do next month. You're going to have to do the...
I got it. I finished When Darkness Falls. He doesn't catch it.
There we go. He'll be doing the ad read for next month for November. So something to look forward to. And if you want to be a patron to the podcast, head over to patreon.com/jumbled and get us in a dress. Yeah.
Dress.
Nice. All right. I think, if you want to send us an email, that would be jumbledpodcast@gmail.com or johnny.jumbled@gmail.com. Send all your dick pics to the latter of those two. Johnny really wants to see him. He wants to critique. He wants to measure. He wants to print out life-size measurements and then
the iPhone measuring app is pretty cool.
I've never actually tried it with my junk. I'll have to see if it's accurate because I know up to the millimeter what I'm working with.
Yeah, 3
millimeters. It's a micro penis, dude. It's the smallest. I pee on my balls whenever I go. All right, guys, this has devolved into a weird outro here, but we hope that you'll come back next week for another episode of Jumbled, your favorite podcast.
about domination of Joe.
Domination of Joe. Oh, shit. Shots fired, son. We'll see you guys next week.
Just kidding. Love you, Joe.